Hello everyone. So now this is the continuation of the evolution of management thought. So previous video we have started with the early management approach. In that we studied the first phase which was before 17th century, and that phase is called as psychological development. So now we are going to understand the next phase which was in between 18th to 19th century, and this is called as scientific management. During this time, the development was brought about by following two important factors, that is, scientific method and standard practices. The effort of scientists to demonstrate the application of science and scientific method was the first important factor, and the next one was the effort of establishing standard practices. Thus, during this development, management was adopted with scientific approach. See, in the previous phase, it was about the psychological development, but now we are talking about the scientific approach. So this is how the progressing started. So the work made use of scientific methods for achieving standard practice and higher efficiency. Thus, scientific management came into existence. Many pioneers have contributed for this development. So, Frederick Winslow Taylor has been considered to be the father of scientific management. He has conducted series of experiments and promoted the development of management thought through his experiments and writing. Some of the contributions of Frederick Winslow Taylor for the scientific management we will be studying further, that is in this video. So in the next slide we are going to study about his contributions towards the scientific management approach. Contribution of F.W. Taylor. So the first one is work study. Work study includes time and motion study. Taylor observed that the workers were not producing their full capacity for the fear that their piece rate would be cut with rise in production. So they were not exactly aware of how much of work has to be done, whether it should be less or more, and they were scared like if they work more it might be like they will be paid less even though they have worked more, and if they are working less also they were scared maybe there might be some deduction in the salary for their less working, so that exact amount of work, that is the work study, was not there. So that is what the Taylor found out, a proper work study he did. So hence he started time and motion study. So he recorded the time required for each motion of a job with the help of stopwatch. So this observation method he used using the stopwatch, that is for so and so amount of a work or for this particular task to be completed, how much of time is being required. So shorter and fewer motions were developed. Unwanted motions were eliminated. The best way of doing a particular job was arrived at. With this, the time required to complete one job was calculated, which is called as a standard time. So proper calculations to complete a particular task was being calculated by the F.W. Taylor through the work study. That is what it is called as a work study. So after is called as a work study. So finally he came up with the calculation, that is to perform a particular job what time is required, and that time is called as a standard time. So if you complete this so and so work in that particular standard time, then the fixed amount will be paid to you. This was the system which was developed through the work study. Then the next was differential payment. Motion and time study and establishment of standard time further helped in arriving at the production rate of particular piece or job. Taylor also introduced the payment plan called differential piecework. He linked the incentives with production. As per this, a worker gets a minimum guaranteed wage if he produces a standard number of pieces, and if he produces more than this standard number, he is paid incentive, that is the extra apart from the daily wage. It was thought that this would motivate workers to produce more. So, apart from the salary or the guaranteed wage, minimum guaranteed wage, if a worker produces more than the standard number of pieces or more than the standard number of work, then he will be paid incentive, he will be paid extra. So, this will act as a motivation for every employee to work more. So this was the strategy again developed by F.W. Taylor through the scientific method, which is called as a differential payment system. That is different pay based on the work. Apart from the minimum wage, there will be a incentive provided for the extra work done. Then the next one is reorganization of supervision. In his tenure, Taylor observed that the worker himself had to plan his work and do the job. The supervisor's work was just to allocate the work to be done. But Taylor advocated that the planning of work and selection of tools and sequence of doing the work are to be done by the foreman, and the worker had to simply carry out the work without wasting his time as to how to do that. He also suggested that there should be separate foremen for each function of job. So here he did a rearrangement of supervision, because before a person who was doing a work had to do all the things, like he had to plan how to work, how the work has to be done. The entire sequence of activities was done by the worker himself. But Taylor suggested, he advocated that there should be a separate person, a separate foreman who will actually plan out the activities and give to the worker, and the worker's duty has to be only to do that work and nothing else apart from that. Like thinking function has to be done by foreman, and doing function has to be done by the worker, so this will not waste the time. So this was reorganization of supervision. Then moving on to the next one, scientific requirement and training. Taylor also suggested that the need of scientific training and development of a worker to carry out a specific task in a more productive way. He also believed that a good cooperation between the management and workers would lead to an increased production and profits to both. Taylor's concept of scientific management were well accepted and practiced by almost all the industries. So, this is the scientific method contribution given by F.W. Taylor. The first one is work study, where he studied the amount of work to be done and he started observing using the stopwatch. That is, he came up with the standard time. A standard time is a time required to complete a particular task. That is how much an employee requires a time to complete that given particular work. So this is called as a standard time. That is what he came up through the work study. He studied about the work and the time required to complete that work. Then the next one was differential payment, where he came up with the strategy that apart from the minimum wage which is being paid for every employee for their work, if that employee produces more than the standard number of pieces or he works extra, he will be paid extra apart from his salary, which is called as an incentive. This will act as an encouragement for every employee to work more. Then the next is reorganization of supervision. He rearranged the method of supervision because he separated foreman from the worker. Foreman is supposed to plan out the things and give to the worker, whereas worker is just involved in doing the work. Then the next he came up with scientific requirement and training, where he suggested that scientific requirement, scientific training and development for every worker is compulsory to carry out the specific task, and this will give the more productive results, and it will also benefit the management and also the employee both, which will give the increased production and profit to the organization. So this is about the scientific method. I hope you all are clear with the concept. It is very easy. Management is really a beautiful concept. If you understand it, it's very easy to answer also in your own words. So that's it for today about the scientific management. So in the next video, we will discuss about the next phase of early management approach. Thank you.